Hi, I'm here with Pamela Chiriboga from INRED. She's in Quito. Hi, Pamela.
Andy, how are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Um, we're here to talk about the hunger crisis and the water crisis in the parroquia of Canoa, in the canton of San Vicente. What's happening?
Well, there is happening a lot of problems. Actually, the problem of Canoa, it's not burning like in this pandemic, but before. The problem of Canoa it has its origins in the earthquake of April 2016, when the bad administration couldn't handle all the effects, all the consequences that brought the earthquake. So there are a lot of problems in Canoa, including food, including water, including power outage, and a lot of things about the infrastructure. But the problem is becoming worse because of the pandemic. Actually, the people of Canoa can buy water because they were capable to work and to buy some water, because the state didn't give them like free water and free access to water, but they were able to work and to buy water. The thing now, the specific problem now is that the people that in Canoa and in other cities cannot buy water, and now they don't have work. They cannot like go out and fish and do some fishing and do tourism because of the pandemic. So they are not able anymore, and they are not able to access. What is happening now is that just private distributors of water are distributing water, and the people of Canoa and the majority of people of Canoa cannot access to water. And that actually it's an obligation of the state to give the water, the free access to water to the people of Canoa and to other cities. And this obligation, it's not like becoming real. And that means that the people of Canoa cannot have drinking water, cannot have running water also, so they cannot cook or take a bath or have the precautions to like prevent the pandemic, like washing their hands and everything. So it's a very the thing that the aspect that they are not capable to access water.
So this is an emergency. People don't have the money to buy food or drinking water, or to buy water to wash. How do we get to the point that somebody comes in and helps, you know, like with humanitarian aid or some kind of... How do they get the help that they need?
First is that it's an obligation and a duty of the state. So the state, with their like different levels of government, like municipal government, have to handle it. It's their obligation. They cannot just give other actors like NGOs to do their humanitarian like labor. That it's good to do that, but it's the principal actor to guarantee the access of water, the access of food, and the access of health. It's the state. But yes, there are like a lot of NGOs and others organizations that are wanting to help this emergency that Canoa and other cities are in. And for example, in Red, are capable to give water directly, but we are actually creating some jurisdictional actions, constitutional actions, to make the state like react and make the comply its obligations regarding the citizen.
Okay, so in that judicial process, have you asked Lenin Moreno, the president, to comply with his duties to feed people and make sure they have water?
We cannot have like direct contact with the president, but they are like the judicial actions are had as it target the judges. Are the people that can guarantee the access of water. So
Right.
what are we planning is actually present an action to the judge in San Vicente, for example, or in Canoa, that can actually state or establish some obligations from the authorities there for them to react, for them to give water, for them to give food. So the contact is not directly with the president, but the contact is directly with the judges that are the people that can establish obligations to the authorities.
Okay. So that order of protection will immediately establish a guarantee that people who need it will get food and water.
Theoretically, yes. That's the thing, that
Okay.
it would depend on the judge, on the administration. Sadly, we think that the justice is not totally independent, and that is a problem. But yes, we are going to try that with through this order of protection. We can guarantee the access of water, at least, and the access of food for the people that cannot access to these rights.
Okay. Now, how long is that process going to take? Because obviously people are hungry today, and hunger waits for no one.
This order of protection, as it is conceived in our institutional structure of the state, should be immediately. Actually, once we presented an order of protection, it should last 24 hours until the hearing. So
Okay.
it's very immediately, because the state, the judicial structure understands that an order of protection and constitutional order of protection, it's a measure that you take when your rights are actually when the state it's contravening your rights. So
When
it's
you're
an immediate action.
excellent. And when will that begin? Is it happening today, or?
Actually, it's just missing last words with some leaders of the communities, not only with Midubi, with Manzanillo, with Briseño. We are just like having in these days last meeting, just to construct all the order of protection and then present.
Okay, perfect. That's a great relief for everybody, I imagine.
What?
I said that will be a great relief for everybody here, I imagine. I mean, certainly for everyone I know, because the situation really is very desperate. One of the people you'll speak to from Briseño, hopefully, we've kind of lost contact. When he distributed water bottles to people when we helped him out with the finances, he discovered families who hadn't had any drinking water for 2 or 3 days, and there were people who were unwell, lying in their own diarrhea in their beds because of the dehydration from that. What I'm wondering is the neglect, that level of neglect. If somebody died, and probably people have, I don't know what the facts are, surely that's genocidal.
Even though genocide has specific elements that constitute that crime, actually, if someone died because of the negligence, the mistakes of state, it will be an obligation and it will be a responsibility of the state. So it's not an state as like an as one, not because of the of one functionary or one people that it's behind the administration. It's a
No,
responsibility of the whole state if one
right.
person died because of neglection.
Well, I mean, once they've died, that's too late, really, isn't it? I mean, what we'd
Yes,
like is
totally.
to be able to, for
To save
for
people.
for the state to comply with those obligations and make sure that people are are fed. We spoke yesterday very briefly about how much money each municipality has been given to feed people during the quarantine. Is there any clarity on that?
And no, one of the problems, like always speaking out, is that there is no clear information about the budget that it's nationally inverting in affronting the pandemic. But in that way, we don't have the information about the budget that had all the municipals government,
Right.
and so
And
we don't have that information.
and is that because the Ecuadorian government don't release that information, that they're not transparent about how they spend things?
Totally, that it's one complaint that we've had, like not just in this state of emergency, but also in the state of emergency in October of last year. And
Yeah.
yes, actually, the Constitutional Court had to ask for the information to the some public institutions because they don't release information that it's important. The budget, the real number of the infected people, the real number of the dead people because of the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, so there is not a free access to the information. And actually, I think that there is a wish or there is a position from the state to don't give information and clear information to the citizenship.
Do they not? Does the government not have an obligation to give
Yes,
a certain amount of information to the public?
yes, the state had a lot of obligations, a lot of duties, including the free access of water to the people, including giving the information, public information about the things that are important and all the people within a democratic society had to have access to. But no, the state of Ecuador, it's not complying its obligations.
So they're breaking the law.
Yes, they are breaking the law.
Okay, let's be clear about that. When you said earlier that we don't have the information of the correct amount of people who became contagious with COVID-19 and the deaths that were caused by COVID-19, are you suggesting that the government are not telling the truth?
We think that they are not telling the truth. Like, I cannot assure that because they are like official statistics, but in the first period of the pandemic, actually the president or the Ministry of Government said, like, I can quote it, almost quote it, like, now we are going to release the real statistics. Like the statistics that we released before were just like referential, but now we are actually going to release the real ones. So they
Okay.
actually accepted, the authorities actually accepted that they were not given the real statistics, and they like start another period to give the real statistics. But we are not sure about the statistics and the reality.
Right. So that, I mean, that could be that they made kind of rough figures, sort of approximations, and they're now making more detailed, specific figures. Or it could mean that they had reasons to give the wrong figures, and now they're actually telling the truth? Which one is it, or which one do you think it is?
As they say, the thing that they are not given the real information, it's not to create commotions or like reactions in the people and to calm people.
Right.
But I think that that's not enough reason to hide information to people. Like this is a pandemic that it's affecting all over the world, and it's some information that it's of public that should be of public acknowledgement.
Yeah.
That's not for me, or for as a foundation of human rights. Hiding information of this public importance, it's actually contravening the duties of state in terms of freedom of expression, for example.
Absolutely, yeah. And I can understand in a way why governments may not want to panic people, but we do deserve to know the truth so that we can manage our own expectations and plan.
Mm-hmm. And that's yes, it's not, as I said, the enough reason, and that's why the civil society can act and can publish all the information that we have. For example, this thing of canoa was not known like 3 weeks ago. It was like maybe a problem that was known in the city of Canoa, in Manzanillo, in Briseño, since a lot of years. But
We've known
now,
about it for 4
because the
years.
action, yes, exactly, but not all the entire country knows. And that's maybe the thing and the duty and the obligations of this civil society, NGOs, for example, my foundation, that can show the reality that are living some cities, the reality in Canoa, in Briseño, in a lot of cities that cannot access to food or to water. It's some like emergency that has to be like shown to the people.
Absolutely.
And maybe in that, if it is shown to the people, and if the people are starting to commenting and to sharing content and to sharing like this problem, maybe it's a form of, or no, not maybe, it's a form of oppression to the or incidents to the state for them to react.
Yeah. So I did a little calculation this morning that the state provided Manzanillo with 30 days worth of food, because they got 2 bags, one from the GAD and one from the municipality, which is only about 34% of the food that they needed during quarantine. Is that what's happening in the rest of Ecuador? What's happening in Quito for people who have no income? Are they not being given food?
Well, I think that the administration and all the actions that are like making real now, it depends on the city.
Right.
For example, in Quito, I think that there is like a good administration, not an excellent administration, but at least, as we know, the major in Quito are like it's handling how to give kits of food from the people that cannot work or cannot go out and they don't have like income. But for example, in Guayaquil, that it's another province here, maybe the action or the management of these kits are not like that well. So I think that it should totally depend on the authorities that are in charge of that, and actually the foundations and all these other actors that are helping, because in Quito there are a lot of management and other actors that are like reacting to that. For example, there are a foundation that are the foundation of the Quito's Queen, that it's like that it's the name, and they are handling actually giving some kits for the people that doesn't have. But you don't have this foundation in other cities. So so there is a problem that in other cities or not, you don't have these other actors that can help the the actions that are taking the government, that are taking the states.
Yeah.
The state.
I suppose to use the words of the United Nations in their message about COVID-19 and the obligations of government, they say that people need to have sufficient food and that it must be distributed equally and impartially, leaving no one left behind. I think that's the words. Quite clearly, in Ecuador, the government have delegated the power of distribution of food to the local authorities, and the service is not equal or impartial, and in many places it's really not sufficient, and that's very worrying.
Yes, it's totally worrying, and it's not just happening in Canoa. It's happening after an oil spill that happened during the pandemic. For example, in the Amazon region, actually the communities there, the indigenous communities there, are compliant because not only because of the river, it's contaminated with oil, but also because the state are not, it's not giving them water or food or health. So this problem, it's not just in Canoa, it's about all these rural cities that had not like that are not the priority of the central state,
Right.
and that is a problem. So we
Yeah.
are like, as the protocol said, the state is like not giving the enough priority of these other people that doesn't have, for example, income, or that cannot fish, that cannot do some tourism, that is their ways to have money.
Yeah.
So the state are not, it's not reacting as it should.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Pamela. I'm really looking forward to the day when the protection order goes in, and
We are working on that.
the success of a food and water guarantee. It would make such a difference because people just don't know what to expect in the next week, because there's no one person actually saying, well, we'll definitely get food to you. So could we have an interview after the protection order and have a celebratory interview?
Okay, we will have an interview, and I will tell you if it was positive or not. It will, as I said, depend on the judge, but we will like try to guarantee this right.
Just on that last point, it depends on the judge.
Yes, it will depend on the judge and yes, the argumentation that they have. If they consider that there it's a clear violation of a constitutional right, that is the right of water, or the right of health, or the right of food, to access to the food, then the judge will decide that actually there is a violation of the rights, and they will decide or establish some obligation or some forms of reparation um, to protect the people. But it will depend on the judge.
How much of that depends on the judge's interpretation of law and human rights, or how much does it depend on just his or her own opinion?
Obviously, depends on what the people that it's present in the action argument, but in final term, it will depend on the decision of the judge, because this is a judicial action. This is not an action that it's like conducted to the president or
Yeah.
to the ministry. This
Yeah.
it's a judicial action, and that term the people that the person that is in charge of the decision, it's the judge.
Our judges here locally don't have a very good record of protecting humans. They generally seem to have a pattern towards protecting perpetrators because they're the ones who give them bribes. So I'm quite concerned about the fact that it's going to be a local judge who's going to be judging. Does it have to be a San Vicente judge? Could it be a Quito judge or someone that we actually know is honest?
No, because the order of protection actually presents in the place that it's happening the problem, that it's happening the violation. And actually we are worried not because of Canoa, but because of the entire situation of the state, that judges don't have this specific training in the management of constitutional rights. And there is a complaint that we have like since a lot of years. Right. So, but there are some things that we can do some incidents for this action of protection. And this is, for example, the media and how we're going to do some publicity and some communicational incidents about the order of protection. And actually, I think that there is it represents a limit to a judge if the action of if the order of protection is presented by some recognized actor or recognized NGO that can actually see and control if the judge is having or not having a good management of the order of protection. So maybe the thing that we are presenting, like an external actor is presenting the order of protection, maybe it's a form of incidence and pressure to the judge to actually realize what is happening and not to be influenced from external things.
I have to stop now because the bread man is here. So I'll stop the recording and thank you very much. But we can carry on chatting. How do I stop the recording?